Hello, hello. Happy Sunday. Alrighty, we are live. Doing a track breakdown this week. Super excited. Thank everybody for tuning in. We are starting the interwebs up here in Ableton. So this week we are going to hop into a project, take a look at some things going on with my most recent release, Hot for a Minute. So we're going to do a track breakdown. And right here you guys can see a little bit of my templating going on. I tend to like to keep things pretty organized. So let's see if I can get that on the screen for everybody here. Just going to double check how we're doing. Yo, what's good, fam? Stoked to have everybody in. Thank you guys all for coming in. Yep, we are live on multiple platforms. The interwebs are good. So yeah, today I'm going to show a bit of a track breakdown on my most recent tune, Hot for a Minute. We're going to bang this one out. I'm going to show you guys. I like to work in MIDI pretty heavily. I like to freeze things down the line. Generally, when I'm doing a project, I also like to keep it pretty organized and bust out before I get to my master. I'll do another breakdown on kind of a little bit of my template another time. That tends to be a little bit longer, so I might do that one on YouTube. But yeah, today we're just going to hop right into it. I always start top to bottom, which is kick first. So I normally am separating the kick these days. Let's hop right in. So the kick here on top. My drum group will always be bus second here. I'm always going to have everything frozen as well. I tend to freeze things and shorten the MIDI within the actual sampler as well. Let's get this one playing just to like give you guys a vibe. So down here I have a bunch of the synths playing. Again, tons of MIDI, layers of MIDI. Some of these aren't even turned on. We'll talk about that shortly. There we go. I think the audio might be better now. I'm sorry, guys. Alright, let's hop back into the drop now. Gave you guys a little bit of a sense of what's going on. But yeah, pretty much like I said, I like to bust everything. The drum group here is going to be EQ'd at a pretty high level because I have my kick separated out. So I got my drums all separated out. This is going to be with the drum bus. Everything up top, nice and crispy, nice and wide. Again, that's the drum group, and I'm normally, like I said, bussing everything out here, EQing to taste. I love my Ozone. If you guys don't have Ozone, highly endorse Ozone, especially Ozone Imager. The hi-hats, I have like layers on layers, so sometimes I'll have rides. Like later in the song here, I have some rides coming in. So you'll see layers of actual hats at times. That's something I definitely like to do to keep the intensity going. So you'll notice that in almost every big artist tune, like whenever you're trying to keep the energy going later in a drop, just add in some rides sometimes. You don't have to get crazy with the synth sound design as long as you've changed up enough. But here we can see, let's jump into the meat of this, which is really the synths. I did a lot of layering. I tried a few different things and turned a few different items off. Like there's even this pedal note. I think there was something down here that I loved, but I turned off. I kept trying to EQ this and get it to fit, and like every time I had this turned on in the mix, it was just like, I loved it, and then I tried to play it in a car and it sounded like poop. So I was like, Uh, but yeah, that's how producing is sometimes. You try to fit fucking all of your ideas into a little box, and then you're like, I have to kill my darlings. But so yeah, like I said, this layering on my melody group, I have it switching up from one drop to the next. And I have a lot of tremolators going on this actually. So if you can see, I love Sound Toys tremolator. I have a variety of different processing going on to really build the dynamics throughout the course of the drop. So I'm modulating the depth and the type of tremolator, and then the rates of things, and then the width and some other filtering as well. So right here you can see down on my processing, I have a bunch of processing going on in a bunch of different areas. And that's because you have to make things interesting for everybody. If things just stay stagnant throughout the course of the tune, it's just going to get really, really dry. So obviously we have a lot of layering going on here. This one, again, one of these layers are turned off actually. I think I was just playing around with which ones I like better. Down here you see that for the first 8 bars I don't have these synths turned on, and then I do have them turned on for the second 8 bars. Down here on drop 2, we can see pretty clearly I have completely different synthesizers actually going for a good chunk of this track. So that's something else I like to do. I normally will change up synths entirely in drop 2, even if they're similar timbre or tone. It's going to be a completely different synthesizer that I'm using. So that's something I tend to like to do in drops, but again, my bass is way up here. We'll start with this guy here too. This is, I was testing out 2 separate bass styles, so with this one, I went with like a nice buzzy bass actually. I just kind of like the tone underneath. I EQ'd this one pretty heavily if I recall. Yep, yeah. So here's the EQ on it. I'm not sure if you guys can see as well on Instagram. I'll try to get it centered, but the EQ is pretty intense on this one. I'm cutting everything at 1K and then taking a nice dip out of like 400. So the bass is really just underneath everything else that's going on in this tune. But I wanted like some nice, strong like hum and buzz to it. Because that, when mixed with this, just has a nice meaty, they just really EQ all together. That's why, because I had that buzzy bass, is actually why that layer that I was trying to fit in, that Reese layer, would never work, because it was just occupying the exact same space as this, essentially. I was trying to fit like a 300 to 2K Reese layer into this bass, which already has that. So that's why I was getting a lot of phasing. Ended up turning that layer off. So again, you're going to, in the process of things, just experiment, see whatever the fuck works, what sounds good, what doesn't. But a lot of the processing, like I said, was just layering on top of layering. There's a bunch of complex chords going on in here, so I'll actually jump into it for a second. I just moved around a bunch of fucking chords and chopped them up. So pretty much, like I said, I like to work in MIDI, and then I like to chop things up. I like to create little motifs and ideas, and then repeat those motifs and ideas, all while trying to maintain a pretty solid rhythmic groove throughout it. But yeah, this tune was one of my favorites, actually. I absolutely love it. It's a fucking dance floor heater. Kind of has more of an electro house vibe than what I normally go for, but I definitely would say that it's like right up the alley of like my bass house, electro house. The next few tunes that I'm dropping, super bass house, electro house, and then I have like more of a tech house heater coming out in like May. But again, always make it whenever it comes to my heart. We're sitting on a bunch of tunes. I'm going to do more of these breakdowns. I am still going to do a 710 session probably tomorrow and bust out a couple tunes from the label, because the label has been getting some absolute heat, some absolute fire coming through. We have a stacked card. I'm sending out all the promos to everybody this month too. If you haven't hopped on the email list, hop on there. We will get at you. We send everything out for free. We love you guys so much. It's all about supporting the community. This Thursday, we're also doing an actual Ableton workshop in Milwaukee. If you're local at all, we're doing it at 8 p.m. before we pop off a house show over there at the Miramar Theater in Milwaukee. So get on it. I love the DAW. I love you all. Go spread love. Go spread wubs. You're the best. Peace. And yeah, it's going to take a second for me to sign off here. But like I said, I'm going to answer any questions in the chat. Hop over here real quick. Oh man, I'm doing great. I love you guys so much. But yeah, you already know we're going to be killing it. Thank you guys so much for everything. Love and peace.